Hare Krishna. Let me offer my respectful obeisances to my beloved spiritual master, His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, by reading whose books in the IIT library my life transformed. If not for the wonderful work of His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, I would not be even understanding anything that is being spoken here. Nor, on the other hand, I'd have been like anyone else in the material race of sense enjoyment, making money, etc. So I'm eternally indebted to my spiritual master who has transformed my life by his wonderful writings, Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, etc. Today we are in the age of science. Science has produced wonders in the life of man on earth, especially the technology part. Life on earth for man started changing drastically from the 20th century, beginning of 20th century, and is changing exponentially every day. So much so that the technological devices, which are more than 100 years, this very world did not see rubber tires or not even radios. Changes have happened in the last 100 years. Behind the success of all this technology is a progress in modern science. There were few intelligent men in history of the Western world who pushed the frontiers of modern science persistently over three centuries to what it is today. They changed the way modern man understood the world, especially so in the 20th century. Newton revolutionized science by defining space as an ontological reality, though a passive reality, and defined it as a stage on which the drama of the universe is enacted. Though common man need not give much attention to the stage to live the drama of life, nevertheless, he said, the space does exist as an ontological truth, along with the things in it. Existence of space or Akash as a separate element was known to the Upanishads much before the Western world discovered it. It is only in the 20th century that modern science added time as a fourth dimension of reality. Till then, time was just a variable in the Newtonian equations of motion. It was Albert Einstein who for the first time discovered that time is part of universal fabric like space, and thus he postulated everything exists in space-time. But Einstein's space was no longer passive like Newton's idea of space. Einstein's space affected objects in it. Space became a dynamic element of reality. The idea of kala or time as an external energy is something very fundamental to Vedic knowledge. Relativity of time, which Einstein discovered, is also common knowledge in the Upanishads. Flow of time is different in different lokas, is very much part of many narrations in the Upanishads and Puranas. So our sages were very much aware of the true nature of the space-time continuum since time immemorial. Albert Einstein, who changed the course of history of this world through technological applications of his discoveries, had the following to say about Bhagavad Gita. When I read Bhagavad Gita, quote, when I read Bhagavad Gita and reflect about how God created this universe, everything else seems so superfluous. Again, physics made breakthrough in the 20th century in the matter of understanding matter at atomic level. That is when quantum mechanics was formulated. This changed the way the scientists looked at the world. Scientists always thought that by studying atoms they would arrive at an indivisible fundamental particle of which the universe is made up of. Modern science started with studying everyday objects and its motions and always thought the same laws of motion would be universally applicable to the atoms. Till then, energy was also considered to be a continuous energy. Suddenly, at the atomic level, startling discoveries were made. Electrons did not behave like marbles. Classical laws of motion failed. They behaved both as particles and waves of quantized invisible energy. Thus, quantum mechanics was born. Almost all of today's technological marvel is an application over a period of time of 1 century of this discovery of quantum mechanics. From computer technology to mobile technology, all are byproducts of quantum understanding of material nature. Like Einstein, there were 3 scientific giants significantly noted for developing this quantum mechanics: Niels Bohr, Erwin Schrödinger, and Heisenberg. History has recorded that all 3 were in touch with the Vedas and particularly the Upanishads in India. The famous Danish physicist and Nobel Prize winner Niels Bohr was a follower of the Vedas. He said, "I go into the Upanishads to ask questions." Both Bohr and Schrödinger, the founders of quantum mechanics, were avid readers of Vedic texts and observed that their experiments in quantum physics were consistent with what they read in the Vedas. Schrödinger wrote in his book, My View of the World, "In all the world there is no kind of framework within which we can find consciousness is plural. This is simply something we construct because of the temporal plurality of individuals, but it is a false construction. The only solution to this conflict, in so far as any is available to us at all, lies in the ancient wisdom of the Upanishads." Regarding mystical insights, Schrödinger tells us the multiplicity is only apparent. This is the doctrine of Upanishads. The mystical experience of union with God regularly leads to this view. In chapter 5 of his book about his philosophy of life, completed in 1960, he writes, "Vedanta teaches the consciousness is singular, all happenings are played out in one universal consciousness, and there is no multiplicity of selves." Schrödinger wrote, "This life of yours which you are living is not merely a piece of this entire existence, but a certain sense, the whole. Only the whole, which is not so constructed that it can be surveyed in one single glance. This, as we know, is what the Brahmins express in that sacred mystical formula, which is yet really so simple and so clear, Tattvamasi, that is you." Or again, in such words as in the Mundaka Upanishads, starting with Brahmai Vede Amritam, Parastat Brahma, Brahma Paschat, and so on, meaning I am the west, I am the east, I am above, I am below, I am the entire world. These were quoted by Schrödinger. Here the Vedic understanding of the connectivity of living entities is put forward to help Bhakta, practitioner of yoga, to understand the difference between body and the living entity. How the real nature of living entity is realized only in union with the source, the supreme being, Brahman, Krishna, through a platform of transcendental divine loving service. Schrödinger, in speaking of a universe in which particles are represented by wave functions, said, "The unity and continuity of Vedanta are reflected in unity and continuity of wave mechanics. This is entirely consistent with the Vedic concept of all is one." Thus, in the 1920s, quantum mechanics was created by these great minds, Heisenberg, Bohr, Schrödinger, who all read from and greatly respected the Vedas. They elaborated upon these ancient books of wisdom in their own language and with modern mathematical formulas in order to try to understand the ideas that are found throughout the Vedas, referred to in the ancient Sanskrit as Brahman, Paramatma, Akasha, Kala, Atma, etc. As Schrödinger said, some blood transfusion from the east to the west to save Western science from spiritual anemia is required. Modern physics has also come with the discovery that there has to be a huge quantity of hidden energy in the space beyond what is visible in the form of galaxies. This is the theory about dark energy, dark matter. They are called dark energy and dark matter. It just shows up in the mathematical equations as we have to explain certain things that the astronomers have observed. This energy is also predicted by Einstein, was predicted by Einstein. For our sages, this is nothing new. Prakrita, aprakrita, vyakta, avyakta, these are all concepts of manifest energy, unmanifest energy. Our sages understood that, manifest and unmanifest energy. Today, physics talks of parallel universes and antimatter universes by resulting simply from an interpretation of their mathematical equations. They themselves do not know what the meaning of those mathematical results, the equations comes like that. The idea of two different worlds, matter and antimatter world, is repeatedly emphasized in the Upanishads. The Vaikuntha planets are self-illuminating and rays scattered by those Swadhama of the Lord constitute the existence of Brahmajyoti. This is confirmed in Mundaka, Katha and Svetashra Upanishads. Na tatra suryo bhati, na chandra tarakam, nema, excuse my Sanskrit, nema vidyuta bhanti kuto ayam agnihi, tameva bantam anubhati sarvam, tasya bhasa sarvam idam vibhati. In the Bhagavad Gita also Lord Krishna talks about another world, Paramdhama. So what the scientists are now predicting one by one, because they are also seekers of truth, the Western scientists, and they are coming very close and close to what our Vedas or Upanishads have always been talking about. Unfortunately, only those having half-baked knowledge of modern science and their pursuit of truth say that what Vedas, Puranas and Upanishads say is all mythology. Mythology comes from the word myth. Vedas and Puranas are all truth and not myth. Unfortunately, even in India, the intellectuals have fallen into this trap of repeatedly using the word mythology for Ramayana, Mahabharata, etc. It is not mythology. If something is a story or imagination or metaphor of the author to get across concepts to the reader, then it is told in advance in our scriptures. That does not mean Ramayana, Mahabharata is mythology and characters in it are mythological figures. They are real stories, real characters. Vaikuntha Loka is not a myth. Today scientists themselves are talking about other worlds which we cannot see with our normal eyes. While we educated Indians, even some Vedic scholars think it is mythology. Krishna is eternal truth, Rama is eternal truth, Devatas are truths, different lokas are truth, creation, maintenance and millions of universes are eternal truth. Let us be first Vedic and then modern, and not first modern and then Vedic in our perspectives of the world. One may wonder, when our sages had so much in depth knowledge of nature, why we did not come up with even a fraction of technology that we have today. Simply people are telling Upanishads, oh, we knew everything, we knew. But where was your technology? Look at today's technology. What all that technology has produced? Why they did not produce all those technologies? Why they had to wait for Western science to come and produce these Western technologies? They say it is only modern science that has produced computers, nuclear energy, electronic gadgets, internet communication, etc. The answer is that in Vedic paradigm of life, the purpose of life was different from what a modern man thinks his purpose of life is. The goal of material life, according to Vedic paradigm, goal of human life was to understand the true authentic self or the soul and super soul within this temporary body and realize the eternal self and which is normally called as moksha, liberating from this false identification, as so well explained by Professor Ram Subramaniam. For achieving this purpose, artha is required, kama is required. But it was in our culture, it was designed, the quality of artha and kama was designed in a limited manner, and that design was called dharma. As Justice Rama Joyce explained, this is very significant. There was a framework within which artha and kama was pursued in this country. But today we are blindly following the Western culture. And the cause of that is the breakage of our Gurukula system of education by the Macaulay education system introduced by the Britishers. I'm very proud that personalities like Rama Joyce, they are all struggling hard to bring about the change in the thinking in the leaders of this country. I think these are the last of the generation of this kind of wonderful personalities. According to Upanishads paradigm, there are 8 layers of, then why our sages did not bring about computers and nuclear energy and all these kind of things so useful for human being? Our perspective of life, there are 8 layers of reality. Panchabhuta and Manas, Buddhi and Ahankara. Our rishis were focusing on the technology of Manas, Buddhi and Ahankara, the 3 subtle elements of reality. They could give us technology of generating peace, material peace and happiness in life, leave alone spiritual knowledge and eternal bliss. Our sages were capable of giving that, and that is what they contributed. Apart from that, it is not that there was any less knowledge about the material aspects, technology and all those things. They were there. But human being's goal was not that. His goal was how to live peacefully, how to save time so that he can study Upanishads, he can hear Upanishads, all these things. How to save time, keep life simple and save time. As we heard here, consumerism today has completely swallowed the entire population. Consumerism. Consumerism means you can live without it, yet it is made a necessity of life. It has become a necessity of life for people. What was needed for a man 50 years back, he was living peacefully. Today, 50 years later, a human being, he thinks he needs so many extra things which was not required at all for him. And all those 50, 100 items that he thinks is necessary of life is all taken by exploiting the material world, exploiting the material nature, destroying the forests, destroying the fossil fuel, exhausting the fossil fuel, creating imbalance in the earth. Today, the danger of climatic change is looming large over our heads. Serious consequences. So, what is the use of so much of technology that has developed and so many gadgets that you have generated? An average man is less peaceful, less happy than he was 50 years back. So have we progressed? We have not progressed. So our path of progress, our Vedic path of direction for human being was something else. And therefore the sages focused on that. In this connection, there is an anecdote related to Srila Prabhupada, our founder Acharya. When Srila Prabhupada came back to India with hundreds of Americans, all shaved head, with shikha, dhoti, everything. He was holding a huge Pandal program in Chowpatty Beach in Bombay. On the stage, all his foreign disciples were also sitting with him. After his lecture on Bhagavad Gita, one Indian asked Srila Prabhupada if he could walk on water. Prabhupada, can you walk on water? Srila Prabhupada said, it is not a big siddhi to do that. He said, if I did that miracle, then all my disciples ask me, please teach me how to walk on water. and that will distract them. He said, what is the use of such miracles when with a few paisa you can cross a river on a boat? Then he pointed to his American disciples and said, this is real miracle. These people are real miracles. Transformation of hearts. I made hippies into happies. Just by the power of one mantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Today they are given up eating meat, they are given up illicit sex, they are given up gambling, all kinds of intoxication, and they are getting up early in the morning in Brahma Muhurta, and they are attending Mangalarti, chanting Hare Krishna. This is transformation, and they have found peace and happiness in life. They have given up all their comforts in the Western world and they are coming behind me. So Artha and Kama was only a secondary support to such higher goals of human life. This is precisely the reasons why our sages did not invent all these modern technological gadgets. Life itself was much simpler. One may say that at least our sages should have discovered medical science which is advanced today as it would directly help humanity. The answer is that Ayurveda was developed to treat all diseases, human and animal. You may say that there are so many things that modern science can do, like a CT scan, etc., which our sages did not know. The point is, our Ayurvedic Vaidyas were also spiritual practitioners, and they had the intuition to see the functioning of the organs intuitively by look of the patient and by simply feeling the pulse more than what a CT scan did. So they did not need a CT scan. Unfortunately, even that quality of Ayurvedic doctors are few on the earth today. This is our dilemma. No intelligent student wants to become an Ayurvedic doctor. Everyone wants an MBBS degree. Reason, Artha and Kama. Those who do not get any other professional course, they join Ayurvedic courses. So there is a serious crisis of value system in our society, even in India. However, the modern life is predominantly inclined to an unbalanced extent towards Kama and Artha. Unfortunately, technology, which is a double-edged sword, needs an intelligence greater than the intelligence that discovered them to use without cutting humanity itself. Ultimately, technology should serve mankind and not become a threat to mankind as it is now. The threat of global warming, climatic changes, are looming large over the earth. Man, due to his intelligence, not being directed to work towards self-realization, is preoccupied with his body and bodily enjoyment, and that is the danger of the Western culture. Let us all take good from the West and keep our spiritual culture intact. Then India will become the world leader with the subtle technology of bringing quality life on earth of peace, happiness and prosperity, and not a life of lust, greed and vulgar abundance of sense enjoyments. India has to lead the world in this direction. So this conference of Upanishads, of Vedas, year after year that we are doing, is going to be, it's not simply an intellectual exercise. Many people are going to open their eyes. The proceedings of these conferences are going to go all over the world. People will read. A few leaders, a few big giant minds in this world, when they change their perspective of life, huge impact it creates on the world. Just see, we couldn't have had this conference without light, without communication, without mobile, everything we have used. Who originated it? Few guys. One Einstein, one Niels Bohr, one Schrodinger, one few guys. And we have evidence that all these guys were influenced by the Vedic knowledge. So, this conference has a very practical impact in this world. It's not an intellectual gymnasium we are trying to do here. The next few days, we're going to churn the knowledge in the Upanishads for the betterment of humanity. And we pray to Lord Krishna, at whose feet this conference is going on year after year, that he blesses us all to become instrument to make some change in this world in the direction of recreating the original India, free from the Western materialistic culture. Thank you very much.